All right, in this example, we're going to determine if the relationship shown in a table is a function. What we're looking for, remember that a function is a relationship where every input has exactly one output. And depending on the type of the representation of the function, so whether we're looking at a table, a graph, or whether we're looking at an equation, there's different ways to tell whether each x is going to have only one y or whether each input is going to have only one output. In a table, I just look at the inputs and I want to make sure that if there's a single input, that there's only one possible output associated with it. So let's look at table A. I look at the input of 0.5. The only way there could be another output than 1 for 0.5 is if 0.5 was in this table again and had a different output. That's not the case. But if you look at the input of 7, in this second column, I have an output of 15. And then in the third column, I have another input of 7, but this input of 7 has a different output. It has an output of 10. Therefore, this table is not a function. And the reason is the input of 7 has more than one output. It could be either 15 or it could be 10. All right. On the other hand, if you look at table B, I don't have any inputs that repeat, and therefore I know that table B is a function. There's no repeated inputs. But I do want to clarify that this function has repeated outputs of 32. In Module 10, we'll learn that that means that this table is not one-to-one, meaning that there is an output that has more than one input. However, that doesn't exclude a relationship from being a function, only from being a special type of function called one-to-one. So here, it doesn't matter that 32 is repeated. Also, it's important to note that if there had been a repeated input, but that repeated input had an output that was the same as when it was originally in the table, that would have still been a function too. So to show that, I'm going to add a column to this table really fast. And I'm going to suppose that I had an input of 50. This 50 is also going to have, an output of 156. In this case, it would still be a function because even though 50 repeats, it still has only one output of 156. Therefore, having a repeated input alone isn't enough to indicate that that a table is not a function. But if there's a repeated input and the outputs are not the same, then it's not a function.